Hello everyone, it is Jim Okrasinski with this week's lecture video. So I'm here in the chapter 3 unit in Blackboard, and I want to make my way to the double entry journal here. I believe last week I've covered the annotated bibliography. I'm sure everybody has watched my screencast video and seen the dates that have been, the due dates that have been adjusted. All right, so the other assignment following up after the annotated bibliography is the double entry journal. And this is specific to chapter 3 and working with sources. So the double entry journal drive folder can be found and clicking in the course folder. I'll add the link there in a minute. Working with 5 sources found for your annotated bibliography. Okay, so this is 5 of your 8 sources. Build a double entry journal as described on pages 97 to 103 in the Curious Researcher using the table feature found in Google Docs, right? Create 2 columns. So I have added a link here. Hopefully this will work. Get you to the template in the double entry folder in our course drive folder. Here I've created the template for you. Just copy and paste your citation here because you should have your citation from your annotated. Now in the left hand column you're going to add a quote, a paraphrase, or a summary from your source. And this is your commentary, right? So read that through pages 98 and 99. What's your reaction to it? How do you interpret? How do you analyze? What's the relevant? What does it add to your topic, right? So I have 5, so there should be 5 templates here. Now remember, as you type, this is a table format in GDoc, so it'll expand as you add content to it. So let's get back to the assignment here. For each of the 5 sources, you need a minimum of 3 excerpts, quotes, paraphrases, or summary. I would stick with a quote or a paraphrase, probably the easiest and the quickest. Add it to the left column of your document and your corresponding commentary in the right column. So I say it is critical for you to read this section on double entry journal and the Curious Researcher to get a complete understanding of the purpose and outcome of this assignment in order to be successful, right? I will assess the double entry journal by its completeness, accuracy, and quality of the commentary about each entry, right? So I'm looking for you to copy and paste your GDoc link into the text box. This is worth 50 points. Okay, so just transitioning over to the chapter 3 PowerPoint here. I just want to talk a little bit about some of the parts in chapter 3 that, like I said, are not covered by the discussion board activity, that note takers triad. So the power of writing in the middle takes place in the middle of the research process. Ballinger talks about the beginning of chapter 3. We talk about academic writing as a conversation, either entering or adding to it. Then we need to acknowledge the conversation with a source, which is really a conversation with ourselves. So the idea here is that if you have some source, some information presents new way of thinking, what's your thought process around it? What's your critical engagement with your source material? Most students don't think about that inner dialectic that we have in our minds as an important contribution to the research process. It's not busy work, but knowledge generating activity. So, what new items have you learned? How has that shifted your thinking? Writing as you read is a genuine conversation between you and a source. It's really what it is, right? You're having a conversation. Don't write to record things, write to make meaning and follow your own words about a subject to see what you have to say about it. It is a conversation. That's how you weave source material throughout your essay. You use it to support your thinking, not to be your thinking. So you want to get it. Let's see, I don't want that. I'm sorry. Chapter 3 covers the taxonomy of copying, right? So how do you paraphrase? And it's critical in that particular textbook section. Take a look at the taxonomy of copying. What is revision? What is moderate revision? What is substantial revision through a paraphrase? All right. So it's important to understand If you're paraphrasing and you're taking information, that you need to cite this information in working with sources. So the chapter does talk about what is plagiarism. It covers all the aspects of plagiarism. You want to take a look at that. And also the common knowledge exception. I believe the textbook says if you read the same information in 4 or more sources, that would be common knowledge that you would not necessarily have to write. And sometimes in some of the um, topics that you are in, you may find some common knowledge there, right? So when I'm going to dive a little bit into the note taker's triad here, a common issue in student writing, illustrated in Ballard's example, is should be a quote there from about Taylor's discovery of a quote. All right, so here's a long quote. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 lines. All right, the quote is too long to use within the text of a paragraph. Okay, it exceeds the 4 line max. Remember, MLA has a 4 line maximum quote standard and paragraphs. You should break those up or paraphrase that information. Anything larger than 4 lines by MLA guidelines should be blocked, and I do not want any blocked quotes in this essay, in this research essay. So you could either break this up, right? So what can you do in this example, right? Okay, you do nothing and try to use it. Do the dump or even jam it into a section. All right, and what'll happen is you use a big quote, and I would come in with a comment: the quote's too large, break it up or paraphrase. Or you can rewrite part or all in the words and weave it in the essay, and that would be the paraphrase. Sometimes students just turn around and collect and dump. That's the first option. Sometimes it's justified when the material is so well said or the statistics are so compelling that the source speaks for itself. But usually you can break up information and talk about it if it's that impactful. Okay? Oftentimes it's just jamming a source in there as a sign of surrender, as Ballinger writes, right? So then here we have the paraphrase, right, with the source and the page number. All right, so this particular instance, the important information is captured in a paraphrase, significantly shorter, and can be weaved into the paragraph or into the conversation. All right, you mine the passage for important information, controls the information, takes ownership. We'll take another look at how to make your presence felt in a draft and another lecture video on chapter 4. However, when you take control of the source information, remember, in all of the source information, what happens is that you control the conversation. You control your quotes, you control your paraphrasing. In other words, the information is there to help you support your thinking, not to be your thinking. And that's why I always kind of pressure everybody in a 1102 course when working with sources, try to find authored sources, and you must use the author's information. It's easier to have a conversation with a human like an author than it is to say that the article says, and treating that article as an inanimate object, which is what it is. But the idea here is it's hard to have a conversation or imagine a conversation with an article. Doesn't talk back like an author possibly would. So the idea here is try to work with that academic conversation with authors. I'd like to emphasize all of that information as far as pulling together authors, as opposed we don't engage with conversations with we just engage conversations with people. All right. Okay, so I've covered what I can for the balance of exercise number 3. The next one, or I should say chapter 3, we will work through some of the information as we get into chapter 4. Make sure that in many ways you also work through the discussion boards, upload. I'm not hearing any questions from anybody, so hopefully things are going well on the annotated, and you have instructions on the double entry journal. So if you need any information, send me an email. Good luck and stay safe.